You deserve praise.
Alright, what's going on, everyone? My name is Deontay, but you can call me Emperor. As you can see, we have a basic gameplay guide for Katalina today. Katalina is a bit trickier to utilize than the other characters I have already made guides for, but don't worry, I'll make it as simple as possible. What I'll be going over is the current loadout I have on her, and then I'll go over a basic gameplay on the practice dummy. Then we'll go over the skills and what I recommend using on her. Afterwards, I'll go for my recommended sigils, along with my build being used on the practice dummy once again. And then finally, I'll use her on the boss, the usual fire dragon. Now, let's quickly scroll down through her sigils. And then same thing for our overmastery. It's essentially the same overmastery I had on her, and that video is probably about a year old, but obviously I'm not going to change it. All right, and y'all already know the drill. I'm going to take off all my sigils and then switch out my weapons so we can go over a basic gameplay. All right, so with Katalina, the whole idea damage wise is to build up her gauge for her summon named Ares. What Ares does is pretty much enhances Katalina like completely. It makes her more tankier, it makes her skills have better effects, all the above. So before we get into Ares, we'll go over what her actual basic attacks look like. So this will be her light string right here. And then you see the Ares gauge on my right side builds up from that. And now we also have her heavy attacks.
No escape.
And that also builds up the Ares gauge. So essentially those are two ways to build up her gauge. But you can also use power strikes in the middle of your light string, and that builds up the gauge depending on how many times you actually hit them. So let's say 3 times.
It's over.
It builds up like that. And we do it 4 times.
I'll finish. I have you now.
Also builds up pretty quickly. Pretty much, as long as you do 3 strikes or more and then you do your power strikes, it will build up a lot quicker. Not to mention, it pretty much builds up halfway whenever you do a link attack as well. And there's also a skill that instantly gives her the gauge, and all of her other damage skills you can use into a combo finisher, but we'll get into that later. Now, for actually using Ares, all you do is pretty much use her heavy attack, and then this comes out, and then you chain that with
Your time's up.
more heavy attacks, and that essentially keeps Ares up, because as you can see, literally after what 1.5 seconds it goes away immediately. And it's not only that, if you block, dodge, or literally get hit without anything like Stout Heart activated, you're going to lose it immediately. Which is kind of why I said earlier that she's a bit trickier to use. Literally most things can immediately take you out of that state where she has Ares summoned. Later on, I'll go over how to actually keep the uptime once I actually go over her skills. Katalina, if she's fighting just like ads and not bosses, she can also launch them by doing 2 light attacks and then using her heavy. So like this, and it instantly launches them. But obviously you're not launching the huge boss. So anyways, that's about basic as it can get for her. So let's go over her skills. She has a lot more value for defensive stuff in my opinion, but she can also be well put for DPS if you actually build it correctly and use the right skills, of course. Anyways, Enchanted Lands is pretty much a really good lunge attack, but on top of that, you see that it says it deals more hits when attacking with Ares. So let's say if you're fighting a boss and you use this with Ares summon, it does a fair amount of damage off the rip. But I don't really use it as often unless I'm using my pure DPS build, then I really don't use Enchanted Lands. But it is very good for closing the distance. I should also mention that her damage skills pretty much chain into combo with Ares. So essentially, the more damage skills you have on her, the longer you can keep Ares up, pretty much. Now, for Winter's Reign, it's a multi-hit attack. It does a fair amount of damage, but it also does a lot of stun. So this is a skill I end up using a lot for boss battles because of just how much stun she can actually do. Because I see Katalina more as like a tank in this game, but she can also dish out some pretty insane stun damage if used correctly. Now, she also has heal, which obviously heals her allies, but that circle becomes even more larger when Ares is summoned. If you're playing with a lot of friends in early game, I definitely recommend somebody who's playing Katalina to use this skill because it does come in clutch a lot, especially in early game. And not as much in end game because pretty much everything can one tap you. Now, Secret Winds, it is a pretty damn good skill because just like Lancelot in my previous video, this stops the enemy pretty much as long as you keep it held down for that duration. And unlike Lancelot, this can be used like from a wider effect. So if you're fighting ads or just like multiple bosses and they just happen to be around the same area, you can freeze all of them. Now, Azur's Sword is technically a buff. It also attacks, but so once you use Azur's Sword, you can automatically use your combos with Ares pretty much. And most of the time, I usually end up starting my fights with this. Light Wall, this is a pretty nasty buff skill because it grants invincibility. And when Ares is summoned, it grants invincibility to the entire party. Now, we also have this other damage skill right here, Frozen Blade. And this can be used twice. So this is another skill that you can use to keep Ares up in battle. And finally, we have Emerald Shield. This gives her a 15% increase to defense, and it also gives her Stout Heart, and then it grants those buffs to the entire party if she has Ares summoned. Now, this is what my loadout usually looks like. I would have Azur's Sword, Winter's Reign, Frozen Blade, and then this is interchangeable, but most of the time I have on either Secret Winds or I use Light Wall. And if I'm doing pure DPS, then I'll use Enchanted Lands. But most of the time I keep on either a buff or a debuff skill at the bottom. Now, as for recommended sigils, for the love of God, please just get Stout Heart on her so you don't have to worry about losing Ares when you get hit. I should also mention that quick cooldown and cascade are pretty important on her since she does need her abilities to come back relatively fast on her because that's how she keeps up Ares. And you're missing out a lot in combat when you don't have Ares summoned in battle, unfortunately. Now, I am going to turn off the reactions for the training dummy so he's not launched literally every time I do a combo finisher. If I can, I'll use Azur's Sword, and then that's how I'll start my combo.
Get them, Ares! Fighting cold! Your time's up! Devastation! The time is right. Get them, Ares! Keep them back! I have you now! Crush them! Your time's up! Change the tide!
And then I might use Glacier in the middle of a combo just to get my cooldowns back.
In one fell blow! Get them, Ares! We'll conclude this! I have you now! Your time's up! Keep them back! Get them, Ares! Fighting cold! Your time's up! Keep them back! I have you now! Get them, Ares! Cut them down!
And I could use Azur's Sword again if I do run out, or I can just use it to combo extend like so.
Devastation! Come, Ares! Get them, Ares! Cruel ice! Let's put an end to this! Behold the pinnacle
So
of swordsmanship!
realistically, if you're not getting attacked at all, you can keep up the uptime pretty much forever if you have on all damage skills with this character. Now then, let's go ahead and fight the fire dragon. Alright, let's get this started, Mr. Fire Dragon.
Apologies, but you will let us pass. Finish this! In one fell blow! Your time's up! We'll conclude this! I have you now! Get them, Ares! Keep them back! Your time's up! Fighting cold! Get them, Ares! Change the tide! Keep them back! In one fell blow! Your time's up! Devastation! I have you now! Get them, Ares! Fighting cold!
Alright. I could use Glacier Shot there if I wanted to, but it's not going to matter as much here.
It's over! I've got them! In one fell blow! Prepare yourself! I have you now! Meet your end!
And I did just reset my gauge right there, but it's fine.
Ready yourself! In one fell blow! Victory favors us! Your time's up! Keep them back! Get them, Ares! Fighting cold! In one fell blow! Your time's up! We'll conclude this! I have you now! Get them, Ares! Keep them back! Your time's up! Stop them! Get them, Ares! Fighting cold! Change the tide! Devastation! Come, Ares!
Alright.
Next attack's gonna be huge! Watch out!
Now, if I'm on a run like this, it works, but obviously not as effective on most bosses.
Keep them back! In one fell blow! Your time's up! Fighting cold! I have you now! Get them, Ares! We'll conclude this! The time is right! Your time's up! Keep them back! Get them, Ares! Right! Fighting cold! In one cruel ice, let's put an end to this. Behold the pinnacle of swordsmanship!
And he is very, very dead from that. But yeah, you can keep her up for a really long time as long as you have stout heart. Because things like getting hit, dodging or blocking, instantly stops the gauge.
We passed.
Alright. And that will be the end of today's video. I do understand that Katalina, damage-wise, isn't really the best. But she does have her uses, just like the entirety of this roster. It's just that Katalina is a little bit more lacking in the damage department than others. Expect to see Percival, Ed, and Saint Delphine really soon. Anyways, I'll catch you all later.